Hi, welcome or welcome back. My name is Yu Wing. You can call me Yu Win or Win, and I'm happy that we get to have this time together whenever and wherever you are tuning in. And so I like to start each one of my videos with a practice, and this one comes from Rick Hanson and it's called Taking in the Good. And there are 4 steps, but I usually just share and practice the 3. And so, if that's supportive, if you want to try the 4th one, it could be the additional expression of this practice. And so, it's based on this idea that our brains are wired to remember the negative things, right? So if we eat something and we throw up, or we go somewhere and there are a lot of wild animals, we may not go back there, right? And it's really a survival strategy. And so the only issue is as we are living in a modern day society and there are less predators and I guess ways um, where we can, like think through what's going on, we can often find that it's difficult for us to hold on to and recall, remember, be resourced by positive experiences. And so, based on the idea of neuroplasticity, or this idea that our brains can continue to grow and learn and expand at any point, unless you have some permanent brain damage. And even so, just it might take longer. And then if we're older, it might just take longer. But we are not, like, our brains are not set in concrete once we pass the ripe age of 25, when they say that our prefrontal cortex comes online. And so, this practice of taking in the good is to essentially help us to really turn any of the positive experiences that we have into possible resource or resource pool for us moving forward in our lives, so that we have something that we can draw upon, where we're not just thinking about survival and we're not just focused on like the bad things that have happened to us, right? We're essentially trying to create these new neural pathways that look for positive or look for good or look for miracles, right? And so there are 4 steps that I mentioned, and the acronym for it is HEAL, HEAL. H stands for having a positive experience, right? So it could be something that's on the forefront of your mind and attention. It could be something that happened, maybe 30 minutes ago. But essentially, you're trying to identify a positive experience. So H in heal is have a positive experience that you can think of. The second step is to enrich the experience. So you might take a few more seconds to think about it and savor it. And you might bring in as many senses as are possible. So if you have, a smell that's related to this, or a texture, if there's a sound, if there's something, all any of the senses. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to extend the experience so that it goes beyond just being a thought, and it really becomes something visceral, something that you experience fully. A lot of us can have a positive experience. Maybe someone gives us positive feedback. Maybe we accomplished a task and we just like rush through it into the next thing. So, a part of healing, a part of the HEAL practice of taking in the good, is when we can sit with it and be with it and allow it to just sort of take shape, allow us to really notice and witness its details. It can become something that supports us. It can become a resource. Okay. So we got the H, have positive experience. We've got the E, enrich it. We've got the third step, which is absorb it, right? So at this point, what we're trying to do after we've really savored this experience is we try to imagine receiving it, taking it in, turning it into a part of who we are, right? So sometimes people might imagine that this experience they're savoring is like gold dust. Maybe they imagine that it's something that they can put in a treasure chest. And essentially, what we're trying to do in this stage is to make it a part of us so that it goes wherever we go and we can tune in and tap into it whenever we need to be able to feel more positive, to be a detective for goodness in the world, in our worlds. And then the last step is to link a positive and a negative experience. And so let's say, for example, the positive experience I had was that I got to eat yummy pineapple sorbet. Okay, so that's the positive experience. So when I enrich it, I, can think of the color. It's sort of this pastel yellow. I can think of the scent, right? It smells like pineapple. I can feel it on my tongue. It's a little icy, it's a little grainy. Um, and then I can also bring in, maybe the emotions that I was feeling. Oh, I felt really happy that I was able to eat this. I haven't had pineapple sorbet in I don't know how long ever. And so I really, I can think of how happy I felt. I can think of how grateful I felt. So that's the enriching. So the absorb stage, I can imagine like, oh, what a delicious like treat that I had. I'm going to imagine like putting into a treasure chest of like things that I really appreciate having experienced and really, believing like this is now a resource that I have to be able to tune into when I need it. And then to link that positive experience with a negative experience to see if they can balance each other out. So I have pineapple sorbet. Obviously, you don't want to choose anything that is too intense in terms of negative experiences, but maybe I felt annoyed by my mother when she was feeling stressed and she was trying to micromanage everything. So I might try to balance the pineapple sorbet with the stress that she was emanating. And if at any point the negative experience takes over, you drop it and then you just focus on the positive experience. If you can hold them simultaneously and sort of allow them to neutralize each other, then you've done what you want to do. Okay. So those are the 4 steps. And it doesn't have to take very long. It can, take 5 seconds, 10 seconds if you have that. And Dr. Hanson suggests that we do this healing, the heal, HEAL, throughout the day when we have any positive experience, right? And it doesn't have to be like a milestone, it doesn't have to be a major accomplishment. It can be you check something off of your to do list. It could be you felt connected to someone that you hadn't been able to connect with in a while. It could be realizing that you have a quality that you really appreciate. And then, you know, you try to enrich it, try to savor it, you try to absorb it and take it in. And if you want to try to link positive and negative to see if it neutralizes, there you go. And the hope is it helps us to look for and find more positive in our worlds. So, just for your consideration, a possible tool for your toolbox. Yay. Okay. So today I want to talk a little bit about divination. Ooh, divination. So the way that I understand divination is that it's using tools, resources to be able to divine a message, to be able to receive a message from a higher being, a higher entity, the universe, source, God, um, whatever language expresses what is higher for you. And so growing up, my mom used regular playing cards for divination. She removed any card that was less than a seven. So, like 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. She removed all those cards. And then she had, seven through ace. And so, the different suits represented something: heart, ace, spades, diamonds. And then each card had sort of a different feel too. Um, as I got older, and it probably wasn't until my late 20s, early 30s, where I had friends who had oracle decks. And I was like, oh, what's an oracle deck? And so she had the specific one around angels. And for whatever reason, whenever she pulled out that deck, and she pulled me a card, oh, it just hit hard. It was like, oh, that resonates, right? So then I was like curious about oracle cards. I was curious about oracle decks. I wasn't very familiar with tarot or tarot, depending on how you pronounce it. But as I've listened to a lot of tarot or tarot readers, I've slowly sort of learned their interpretations of cards. And then also, my thing for a very long time was, if it wasn't gifted to me, then I shouldn't buy it, because the decks that I purchased did not resonate as much when messages came out. My thing about divination is, I believe that we receive what we need to receive when we need to receive it. And as someone who believes, right? I'm not somebody who's like, well, astrology's dumb because, it can make sense to anyone. And I'm like, well, if it makes sense to you, if it lands for you, if it resonates, if it hits hard, if it cuts deep, like, maybe there's a reason. And if it doesn't, then we just let it go and we move on, right? For me, it's like no harm, no foul. Um, so that's been my experience with divination. I did recently, when Hot Girl Era started, I was like, what? I don't want to be limited by this belief that I cannot sort of have these decks in my possession that I feel drawn towards. I don't want to have to wait for somebody to like buy it for me and to gift it to me and to know that this happens to be the one that I want. I was like, oh, it's been waiting for too long. And so I was walking around after I had brunch somewhere, and there happened to be a place called Tarot Arts. Tarot Arts. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go inside. I was also apparently looking for a reader, and someone was available. So I also got a reading. However, after the reading, I had time to go through some of the decks and look at the cards and look at the guidebooks that come with a lot of the decks. And I was so grateful for that. And then I just felt really drawn to um, a new deck that I had never really seen. No one had ever drawn any cards and referred to it, or maybe I just wasn't paying attention. And then they had the deck that I had been wanting, that I gifted to my twin, and I heard so many times on um at Magnetize Yourself videos when she would pull Rumi cards from the Rumi Oracle deck. So I was like, oh, I really want this deck. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to let go of that limiting belief. It doesn't have to be gifted for it to resonate. So I bought both of them. I was like, oh, mm. And I was so excited, super duper excited. And every time I touch the Rumi Oracle, I just feel so connected to, I feel so connected to this like profound sense of love and to Rumi himself. And then the other deck that I picked up was the Rose Oracle deck. And I'll link all of these things in the video notes. But when I pick that deck up, there's like this deep sense of peace. I think it really helps me to tap into like divine feminine energy and the cards that show up for myself and for others. Oh my gosh. And then when I read it, it's like I can't explain in words well enough. And I hope I can draw a card from each one of those decks another time. I also don't want to like do everything, but I realize that this is my story and divination has been a part of my story. And so, what I did want to do is I had found a deck. I remember, I think I was on a meat treat somewhere, and there was a spiritual shop. And I was going through, I was looking at their cards, and I found a Louise Hay deck, right? And so, this is probably the first time I was revisiting Louise Hay after I'd come across her I Can Heal Myself affirmations that my coworker had shared with me. And I didn't really think of, like looking her up online. I just remember getting this deck because, let me grab the box, because it was called Heart Thought Cards. And it was a deck of 64 affirmations. So it's not even, an oracle deck or a tarot deck. But I really liked the fact that it had the word heart. And this is like a precursor to heart centered. But what I was hoping to do is to just shuffle and see if anything comes out for you. Um, Whatever it is that you may need to hear. A lot of times I feel like divination and um, channeling readings mostly confirm or reaffirm maybe some of the questions that we have, some of the answers we have, but we aren't ready to go all in or um, commit, devote ourselves to that answer. And so I hope that there is a message that can support you, can affirm you. Um, so let's see what shows up. When I go through a deck and I shuffle, I wait for one card to jump out, and that's how I like to receive the cards. So this is a card. It says, I'm willing to change. Okay. And then there's a backside. Um, and so I'm going to read it first and then I'll show it to you. When one door closes, another door opens. It is only change. I am safe and secure and loved. So when one door closes, another door opens. It is only change. I am safe and secure and loved. So feel free to take what resonates and to leave the rest. I wonder if there are any oracle decks, tarot decks, any divination tools you use that you'd like to share with us here in the community. Um, I will definitely again share the information for the three decks I mentioned. I will share the link to at Magnetize Yourself, who sometimes pulls Rumi cards at the end of her readings. Thank you, Infinity. You have taught me so much about the twin soul, twin flame journey. I'm trying to think if there was anything I mentioned. Oh, Rick Hanson. I'll also share a link to his um, taking in the good practice. So, with that, before I leave, just take a breath. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you being a part of my journey. Thank you for witnessing my story. It has been a long time coming. So it has been, it's been very life affirming to be able to speak my truth and to share it. Um, I have so many thoughts, so many ideas, so many things I come across. And most of the time, I don't feel comfortable sharing it with just anyone, except for maybe my very loyal subscriber. Can't wait for our next call. Um, but I hope that whatever you're doing, um, I hope you feel powerful enough to share a part of your light, even if it's a little ray, even if it's a ray for a second. Um, I feel like we can use social media for good, for wholesomeness. I feel like we can find ways to combat and equalize, neutralize some of the things that are being shared. And so, if you are willing to join me in sharing love or light or positivity or hope or joy, bliss, I hope you do. Please feel free to share with me what you're doing, what you're thinking about, what ideas you're coming across. And I hope you know, I hope you believe, and if not yet, that you will soon come to believe that who you are, exactly as you truly are, is worthy and deserving of unconditional love. I look forward to connecting with you next time. Until then, please take good care. Okay, bye bye.